Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been, I came across, a student of yours, and some that other people may know, Ra-Kalam, Bob Moses. I came across one of his books, that I know he wrote maybe back in the day, back in, I'm not sure how many years ago or when it was from. But yeah, it's a book called Drum Wisdom, and I was kind of reading through it a little bit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I never heard about that.
yeah, yeah, and I guess yeah, there were a couple things that came up, and I know you guys have been associated together. He's been playing with you and coming to you for spiritual help, for a while, for some years now.
Playing, mostly.
Yeah, playing,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, absolutely.
We had a different view of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And?
Yeah, and I guess my question is, how or if you've seen any kind of evolvement on his end in terms of when maybe you guys first met and till now. I know you guys have kept up a relationship, so I just wanted to hear if you had anything to say about.
Well, I think initially, he was exploding more externally, more physically. Yeah. And I think it reflected his lack of practice, which is true for everyone. Lack of practice being, stopping, slowing down, and being conscious of breathing. Tree to grass, earth to moon, moon to sun, sun to solar system to the galaxy, to the nebula, to the universe, and so on and so forth. Expanding outward, opening, and feeling the space of things. So in the early days, what I heard from him was a lot of emotion, but powerful playing, never holding back. So, but he had to be that way. See, I had to hear that and see that. I know that he spent some time with Rashid, and so he had certain drummers he was tuned into, and it was wise for him, fortunate, very fortunate for him to be tuned into Rashid, because Rashid became a very dear friend of mine. We had a rough beginning, but right after I played and we started to resonate, and he and I were like in it together, so like one person. The two drummers coming together, and so Rashid was a good influence for him. And so what he took from Rashid, I think, developed more over time. And when he hooked up with me, I made clear that where I'm coming from is related to that, not that, but related to that. And so then he, more than other people, asked a lot of questions about things. So his curiosity was, A-class curiosity. See, and that's how you grow. You ask questions and you hear different views, and you sort out what is the right view for you in terms of where you're at and what you need to do. And I would always tell him, drums first, but not without heart. So then it's heart, drums first. Right? Drum, heart first. Not just playing to play with other people, which was maybe his focus. I'm tribal. We don't play just to play with other people. We play to let go of people and everything else. So it was to awaken and expand our space, beingness, initially, to rise above the suffering. Whereas in the beginning, I think jazz was a form of suffering that everybody was sharing with everybody else. Right? It was just suffering. Right? And it was all about being a better and a harder and crazier player, and that's got nothing to do with what I'm doing. Although I do play hard, I do play intensely, that's how it's given. So people must play the way it's given. Ra-Kalam was given that intensity. So when we got together, it was A-bomb time. Two explosive peeps coming together, fireworks, right? Watch out. Walls were breaking, right? People were screaming and so on and so forth. And that's how it should be. Exuberance, but not anger, particularly. But you got to do something with your anger, of course, if you're an angry person. If your karma warrants it, then you have to process it, but not to be angry. Process it to release and remove yourself from anger. So all of that, he had a lot of that. So a lot of people didn't understand him, but he came to me as kind of, I think initially as a fellow musician, but then he realized that I had something else going on that he needed, and that is into the spiritual, deep spiritual, which had nothing to do with society and culture and religions in general. It had nothing to do with that. It had to do with your breathing and who you are and what your ultimate view was. And so he started to pick up on that. He was more, it seemed, he was more fascinated by what I was playing on guitar. So that was an opening for him. This guy loves guitar players. I mean, he's like a guitar authority practically. He's played with all the great cats. So I was happy to hear that. And that from all of the great players that he played with, all great players, great musicians, he wanted to be here with me to go deeper. It was an honor to have him do that. So what else did you want to say? So he's changed. Mm-hmm. Oh, he's changed, yeah. Yeah, he's changed. He's grown with me. He's heard thousands of hours of my speech, my viewpoint. But he's heard me play, and he and I have played, and I brought him into playing with Pharaoh, right? And others, and Ravi Coltrane. And so he listened more than listening. He was recognizing I was being what I was talking about. It wasn't just talk and a rap as such. It was a testimony to what was already happening in terms of my thing, which was to play from the heart first. I play as a primordial drummer, and to go as deep as we can. That means void of self. So we're talking about going into selflessness mode. And so he's an experienced individual now. I mean, he's teaching from a higher teaching. So he's one of the wise people. I would say talk to him, listen to him, and you can gain good advice from him. He's always been a sharp critic of others, being honest, very honest. And so if he says he thinks I'm great, he has his view of that. And he's being honest, because there's nothing else happening but us getting together, playing, and keeping it real. There's nothing else going on. And so he's here because he loves it here, because it's real here. And of course he knew I was very close to Rashid before he passed. And we had gotten together and played with Ravi and played with Pharaoh and Paul Schaefer. He was a great person to help support what I was doing. Paul had the ears. See, that's why I call him Shabd Bodhi. He has those special ears that hears the spirit of what's happening, not just the chops, not just, the licks, not just the training. He hears the voodoo in it, what I play. And this is important. I come from voodoo people, right? That means people who sense that nature is sacred. And we have to find our peace with it, with nature. See? And bring the healing that you find in your understanding to other people to share, so that we ultimately all become wise elders. Comment?
Yeah, absolutely. And there was something in his book, I guess, that I thought when I read it, that I was like, I wonder if he would have the same, perspective on it, if I talked to him now about it, which was like always playing from something. Like he talks about playing off of a melody, or playing off of a vamp, or playing off of...
Well, that's beginner's talk. Right, that's for beginners. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like school training. Mm-hmm. Right? Sure. There you're at least giving yourself a step.
Right.
If you're not playing and you don't know how to play, then you start with these technicals, right? These fundamentals. So they're good. They're sacred in the beginning, but they're useless here. The way I do things is useless. In fact, the whole purpose is out of body. So whoever you thought you were when we started is not what's left. Because what we get into is right beyond the mind, and the thought processes, and they are more or less bypassed. So there's no thought going on. See, and so that's a theory for some people who don't know these concepts, but it's a practice. See, if you hear my playing, you wonder where the references are. You don't hear me playing what other guitar players play. Maybe a lot of guitar players, since I've been on the scene for a while, aspire to play with that much freedom, because without that I would have never played with somebody like Pharaoh for 40 years on and off. Pharaoh's real. He's deep. I'm not saying he's a nice guy. He's bad. Deep. That's why he was picked up by train. He's for real. And I loved him for what he was doing. There was a time when we loved each other because we were on the same page for all that time. I supported him. He was keeping it real. He was doing something that other players wouldn't venture into in the same way. So he's a very, creative in his way. He'd like to play all different kinds of instruments from different countries. So he was really wide open as a musician, right? And always curious about new instruments or different instruments so he could hear the sound. So we were on the same page for the most part. Right. So anyway, getting back to Ra-Kalam. Yeah, that's beginner stuff. He's learned to go way beyond that since he started talking with me about what the real requires of us, which is already a meditative condition, already a self-absent approach. So in other words, it has to be real to you. It can't be something you're trying to become, because the real is already what you are, but you just don't know it as such. And my advantage, and I'm not boasting, is, starting so young. So I lost all my self-consciousness as far as whatever that was. I didn't have any. It was just playing. It's just like breathing. Play the drums, and then eventually I found my way to ukuleles because they were given to me by my uncles, my Uncle John and my Uncle David. Had ukuleles they didn't have any use for. So they laid them on me, and I started fiddling around with them, and I think my joy of early life was that I could play the ukulele behind my mother and her sister singing, because they turned me on to these show tunes. I said, those tunes were lovely tunes. I like to be with them on that. So I put two and two together, and I learned the ukulele, and I could play behind them. The joy of my life at the time. It was great. Right. But the drums have always been that which carried me through, as they should, because the drums are really like an extension of the heart. We can't just see drums as something outside of ourselves. That's a perception. It's a viewpoint. It's a physical reality that they're over there, but where's it coming from? It's coming from inside. So all of it is from the inside out. Music should be coming from the inside out, not just school to in and then to out, but from the inside out, from the get-go, right? From the heartbeat, and plus school, but from the inside out school, and so on. Comment?